known what I know now. And that is, I would have had to gone into this relationship understanding that there would be months. Months would go by without a single conversation. I didn't understand that going in. I thought, she's a person who seems perfectly adequate at holding conversation. She does it all the time on her blog. But no, apparently not. So, not with people in the real world. And this is where I essentially issue my warning to people, is that when you get into relationships that you become emotionally intimate in, and I say emotionally intimate because if you say have intimacy, most people mean sex. And yes, there was sex in this relationship, not a lot. Basically, it was that first night, that first drunken night, and then during the 2 weeks we basically had to live together. We had sex a couple times, but sex was understood early on in the relationship that because we both live at home, that we would not be having sex very often. So we kind of just had the sex when we could, and then we moved on. But when you have like emotional intimacy with someone, two-way conversations are very important. And not being able to have that when you're the person that kind of looks for that kind of stable adult relationship where you have conversations. And yeah, they're not on a daily basis. They're not even necessarily on a semi-daily, every couple of days. But as long as you actually have conversations, you have that person to look forward to talk to. And it was getting to the point where I was actually not looking forward to hearing from her. I would almost prefer not to hear anything from her. Like, just sending text messages to her over the course of days was better for me emotionally than to send all those text messages and get one back with like a single sentence that was replying to like the cherry-picked text message that she felt okay replying to. When there's such a controlling, because she has to control her world, and she was so controlling of our own even conversations, we had no way of growing to know each other. No way of growing and having conversations. And that's not a relationship I could handle, and that caused my emotional kind of collapse. That caused me to go against my word and read her blog and do all that and say all the things I did. Because if I was in the normal mindset, I wouldn't have said any of that. There were so many things I look at now and I go, wow, I can't believe I said that. But I was angry, I was frustrated, I was pissed off, I was depressed, I was sad, I was crying. I mean, it was everything. All about this girl who I thought was just damn near perfect, except there was some pretty big chinks in the armor. And I thought I could get through these chinks. I thought I was so determined that if I just showed her I was there and she could just talk to me whenever she wanted, that she would open up to me. And the more I showed her I was there, the more she walked further away. And that I would stand there and just go, what? Just, where are you running? Like, runs away from everything, We had a disagreement over like who pays for meals. That was like 2 days I didn't hear from her. She thought I was some ignorant white snob about, and then because of a conversation we had once on the phone, and before we even finished the conversation and me to finish explaining what I was saying, she hangs up and doesn't talk to me for 2 days. And it's like she's so quick to jump the gun and cut all communication that it made having any conversation besides, how was your school day? Oh, it was good. How was yours? Mine was fine. Anything beyond that was impossible. And then having her little world that she lives in, and me basically poking a hole in that and saying, look, you're living in a delusion. It's like unplugging someone from the Matrix is basically what happened. And not only did she kick me out of the Matrix and plug the hole back in, she then pulled the power cable back into the Matrix so that I couldn't do it again. and ran off into cyber whatever, living alone in her room with her cats, playing video games and reading sociology textbooks. And that really sucks, man. Like, this really sucks, and it's probably taken me about 2 weeks to get over all this. And now I look back on it and just kind of go, I was so sure of myself. I was so sure of her feelings for me because she expressed them to me and to the internet and the world, that I believed that that would be enough to kind of at least keep the relationship going until we can kind of get past this thing. Nah. She's so concerned about herself and so afraid of intimacy that she would rather be alone and depressed than risk any kind of long-term relationship. And that's sad, because the risks of a relationship, that's life. I mean, part of the thrills of an early relationship is knowing that the person could leave you at any time. It makes it terrifying. But you still stick together for these feelings that you have for each other, and that's where things really kind of become special. And she just wasn't ready to be in a relationship. And I wish I saw us coming sooner, because then I could have said, look, let's take a break. You know, we're not breaking up. We're just, you know, you need more space than I can provide, and I need more of a actual functioning relationship. Like, she needs more space than I could provide her, because I was looking for a relationship that had more functionality, or any functionality, so to speak, than she could provide me. Because, you know, relationships are two-way roads, and I can't be the only one trying to keep conversations going, and I can't be the only one driving 30 miles to her apartment to see her on the weekends and whenever possible. It's just things just got tiresome, is a real good word. Tiresome is what that relationship was. It was physically tiring because of all the effort I had to put in just to meet her, because of how little time we got to spend together. Emotionally draining because I was just starved of any kind of relationship communications by her making, by the way. I mean, none of it was, oh, so the reason why she doesn't call or Skype is because she lives at home with her mother, and she doesn't want her mother to know she has a boyfriend, because if she has a boyfriend, she'll get thrown out of the house. Somehow. So apparently, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Her mother is super controlling of her life. And so what she's done is taken the few parts of her life that she has any control over and fucking locked them down. And it's made it impossible for our relationship to go anywhere. And that's what led to my meltdown in the relationship. And then that was the end. So a note to everyone getting into relationships. If you find someone, damn it, they could be perfect. They could have the best smile, the cutest face, rockin' body, whatever it is that you call like your 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, whatever. And just brilliant mind. You gotta look at the emotional structure of that person. And if you find out that they have these delusions of privacy and sanctuaries, they have very bad childhood issues and parenting issues with their parents, and issues with just people in general. Very bad trauma in their lives from either sexual assaults or things of that nature. I'm not saying don't date them, because if you date them, you'll have one hell of an experience. Like, you'll never have another a quiet dating experience like that again, probably. But I'm saying is be careful. And try not to get too emotionally invested into things, because things could, I mean, like that, blow up just like it did for me. And I would actually encourage you to date someone who is emotionally damaged, so to speak, because because if it works out, I mean, she was brilliant. I wish things kind of worked out, at least for. I was hoping to look to kind of like analysis the relationship in like 6 months. Like my idea when I asked to be my girlfriend, I'm like, look, I put a date on my calendar, like 6 months from now, I'm gonna look at our relationship and kind of like see how things are going, because I recognize there's gonna be issues. And they're long-term issues that require professional help for her. Unfortunately, she's been to a therapist and refuses to go back because they're mean. She has a lot of health issues because of her powerlifting that she refuses to get addressed, because going to a doctor isn't nice because they'll call her fat. She's not fat. She just weighs a lot more for her height than most people do, because she's got, you know, a thigh the size of, you know, bloody tree stump. It's all muscle. And so she refuses help, and I really hope that she go gets it, because if she starts now, in the next 2 years when she finally graduates and maybe gets a job, she's never had a job before, she had one for like 6 months, but she's never had a real job, and when she finally graduates and can get some kind of job and move out of that damn apartment with her mother, she will be a much better person and in a much better place in her life. And I really hope that for her. And I told her that. She didn't really accept that as a nice way to go. I'm like, look, I really hope you get out of that house, get that job that you want. You know, I really hope you go see some help, because I know you have issues. You know you have issues, but you refuse to go get any professional help about it because you believe you can fix them yourself. And her fixing them is locking out the entire world. And that doesn't fix it. That just puts a Band-Aid. And they're tough relationships. I'm bummed. I thought I could do better in a relationship that fractured. And I'm also a little disappointed in her. I'd hope that she was a little bit more pulled together than she as she presented herself, because she presents herself very confidently and very intellectually, and so I was hoping that wasn't just for show. Turns out it was pretty much all for show. And yeah, things to learn from, you know. You live and learn, you date, you find these girls, or you guys, you know, if there's a girl or guy watching, and this is ubiquitous across anything. Guys have image issues. Are you kidding me? I can't stand going to the weight room of a gym, because walking in there, I see 400 reasons why I should feel shit about myself. Guys have their own body image issues. Guys got their own emotional issues. Not every guy is as fortunate as me, who lives with parents that on a regular basis do nice things for me, and I do nice things for them, and we go to lunch together, and we talk about things, you know, the world, school, love, relationships, lost, friendships, things like that. Like, I tell my parents everything. We're all best friends here. Most people don't have that. And it really changes who you are when you don't have these things. It really affects your relationships with people, because, I mean, really, relationships are based on things like communication and understanding. And it doesn't matter how much one side understands and how much one side tries to communicate, when the other side needs to control it and needs to limit the communication and then refuses to see the understanding of the other, you're not even on the same page anymore. And when a relationship is not on the same page, that's just doomed. So, tip for dating: don't date, well, be careful dating people who are controlling and artificially limit communication with you. Because if you know that they're reading your text messages, because they'll tell you they read your text messages, but then won't respond to you for a couple days because they forget, right? They don't forget. If you're dating someone, if you're in a relationship with someone, especially in the beginning, when you text each other, you know you're like, oh, my boyfriend texts me. Oh, my girlfriend texts me. Like you're like, oh, let's. Oh, as soon as I get a chance, I'll read it. And when you read it, you go, oh, okay. And it's either something that requires a response or it doesn't. And if it requires a response, you're probably gonna text them back sometime that day. But if 3 days goes by, that's kind of on you. And I know I have friends that we discussed this at length. They're like, Max, you demanded too much of this girl. And I'm like, you know what? From her perspective, you're damn right I did. I demanded way more of this relationship than she could possibly have provided. The problem is, I didn't realize the extent of how little of what I was asking she could provide. And I'm not blaming her, because they're all based off her issues. And unfortunately, her issues are pretty much self-crippling. So the more she's depressed, the more she recedes into herself and her little comfort zone. The more she recedes in there, the more depressed she is because she doesn't have anything else besides it. And then she just kind of, it's like gridlock. It's like once you're stuck in traffic, man, you're stuck in traffic. And there's not a damn thing anyone can do about it. And me poking my head in there and saying hi and looking around just made her lose her, basically panicked, because she's in her comfort zone, her tree fort, right, that says no boys allowed, and no one has ever been in there except her. And so she's hiding in there, she's wishing everything will be better, and I just poked my head and said, hi, nice place. Scared the shit out of her. So yeah, be careful. Get to know people. Really get to know people. Recognize red flags, like issues, emotional issues. Don't use those as reasons not to date them, but kind of make a notebook. Like I was taking notes, and use those notes, and then when you finally reach a point in the relationship, maybe 2, 3, 4 months into a relationship, and you're finally kind of seeing each other eye to eye, really kind of sit down with the person, and once you both really have good mutual feelings for each other, sit down with them and kind of talk these things over, things that you think might be issues and that concern you, and that because you really need to talk things out, because without communication, essentially all issues are left in the air. And at some point, one person in the relationship, usually the one who's concerned about those issues, is going to go under a lot of stress about it, and they're going to do something stupid. Prime example. So, anyways, that's the story, and a bit of a rambling about it. This is probably going to be a really long video. I hoped everyone who watches this gets a kick out of my misery and the hell I went through for about a week and a half. And hopefully you can learn something from this, because relationships are hard and they require work. And if you get into a relationship and you invest yourself emotionally into a relationship, and you find out the other person isn't willing to put in the work to make it so, or at least to meet you halfway, you then you get really depressed about it. And even if you can change your expectations to match and put in only what they're putting in, then the other person gets kind of upset about the fact that suddenly you feel like you're receding away. And so you have to be willing to be in a relationship where you're giving more than the other person. And be willing to do that until such a day arrives where the other person is able to give enough back to at least match your expectations, however much lower they may have become. And that, that requires a lot of patience and understanding. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough. So, as much as her issues are what caused pretty much all the problems, it was at the end me who got into this relationship and pretty much failed to be able to provide the type of relationship that she would need the kind of distant relationship that she required in order to even be in one. And the only regrets that I have, besides, you know, my fuck up, is that at the end, I was so mad about the whole thing. I've said a few things that, because I knew we weren't getting back together, at least not anytime soon. And, I mean, she probably would never want to talk to me again anyways. I then said a few things to basically seal the deal, to burn whatever structures might be left of that bridge. And I burnt them to the ground. And that was wrong of me to do. I mean, it was wrong of me to do from my perspective. It was hurtful to her. And even though it'll help her move on from me, it was still, there were still unkind words were said. And the one thing I would like to tell people is that if you are ending a relationship, or if you're the one being dumped, for the love of God, be careful what you say. Get friends together. If you're sending a text message, if you're sending an email, if you're leaving a voicemail, write it out. Get 3 of your best friends together who understand the situation and have them read it. Have them read it, have them edit it, have them critique it, because you might even have the bros, right? Like, oh, fuck that girl, you know, just lay it all on the table. Tell you what, one of your friends will be like, you know, that right there is kind of mean. Maybe you shouldn't do that. And listen to that guy or gal or whoever it is, parent, doesn't matter. Walk away from the relationship. Never burn those bridges, because you know what? Now, I'm going to see her at school all the time. I won't even be able to say hi to her, because I'm now ashamed of what I've done. She feels bad because our relationship ended pretty dramatically and terribly. And I feel bad because the way I walked away from it was basically, this is over. Time to burn the building down. So, don't do that. You'll regret it, trust me. And you'll feel bad about it for probably a couple of months. I know I am. And yeah, I wish you guys the best. This is my story of Do Not Answer number 2. I would tell the story of Do Not Answer number 1, but that's been too long ago. I wouldn't be able to give that story any justice. So, long video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Talk to you later.